What's up, you guys? It's Tommy here from Saleslucky, and today we're going to be talking about a concept. The concept is called compounding. Okay, it's the law of compounding, the law of compound interest. Okay, so I'm sure we've all heard this before, and we've heard about it in math class, in school, and we might know this concept on a certain level. And I certainly knew it intellectually on a certain level, but it wasn't until a few months ago it really struck me, and it really had a big impact on me, on the epiphany it had on me. And I was reading this book called what was it called? The book is called Automatic Millionaire by David Bach, and in the book he talks about it's obviously about money. He's talking about compound interest, and I went online and I played with a calculator, and just playing around with some numbers. Let's say you're 25 years old and you put aside $1,000 or $2,000 in your savings a month, and if you compound that with 12%, interest rate, which is what the S&P 500 has been over the past, X number of years, it'll amass this massive number, in a couple of decades. Let's say, and I think the example I mentioned or pulled up was, if you start with like 10,000 in the bank at age 25, and you put aside $1,000 or $2,000 in your savings or investments, and compound that in just the in the regular market, in an S&P 500 index, in a S&P 500 index, like in Vanguard, you'll have something ridiculous like $15 million at, let's say, the end of your 60s, after 4 decades or so. And so this topic here today is about, as salespeople, as people who sell, what are some ways we can leverage the law of compounding in our favor? So one is obviously finances. As sales reps, or even as maybe as business owners, when we close deals, when we knock down deals, we get commission paychecks, right? So it's intelligent and wise for us to invest that commission portion into like a Vanguard or S&P 500 index fund, where that money will compound over time. And just from our commissions, that would should hopefully like amount to something significant once some amount of time has passed. Okay, and this is the significance of the law of compounding, because when you put stuff aside and you put off immediate gratification, as a consequence, in the long run, over the long term, you'll see a much greater reward. Okay, so finances is the obvious one where we can leverage the law of compounding in our favor. The second point is education. So you see the bookshelf behind where I'm doing this video, and you see it in my videos. It's no secret that I love to read. I'm a voracious reader, and yet another thing that compounds just like money does, although you might not see it grow in terms of like a quantifiable value like money, but education grows as well. It also compounds. Everything compounds. It's not just money. So if you make it a habit to, let's say, read 10 pages a day, and I've been reading one of my mentors, Ed Milet's book right here, Max Out Your Life. He was one of the founders of the Arete Syndicate, which I shared about in a former post. But with education, if you read just 10 pages a day, how many pages will that be in a month? It's 300 pages, right? 30 days in a day, 300 pages a month. Well, that's pretty much like a book, right? An average book is probably less than 300 pages. So if you do that, if you just read 10 pages a day for a year straight, how many books would you have read? Well, if you read a book a month, well, then that's going to be 12 books a year. And don't you think your skills, your ability to sell, don't you think you will change, or you'll get better if you read 12 books over the next year? And this is the exact conversation I had with my friend when he kind of visited me in my apartment when I used to live in LA, and he saw these books that I had. He said, "How are you reading this, man?" Like, he was telling me he doesn't like reading. He sometimes he'll get sleepy and stuff like that. And I told him, this is the exact same conversation I had with him. Hey, man, if you just read 10 pages a day, what effect would that have over 30 days? And if you kept that up over a year, I mean, what kind of effect would that have over a year? And imagine if you did that for the rest of your lifetime. How big of an impact would that have? And the interesting thing is, immediately after I told him that story, I could tell it lit a light bulb in him, and it did, because he told me to change his habits, and he started reading every day. And the funny thing is, or the interesting thing is, after he's developed this habit of reading 10 pages a day, he tells me he doesn't want to put the book down after 10 pages. So he'll read, 20, 30 pages a night. And he's told me it's changed his life massively, and it's only been maybe about 2 years since that's happened. So this is another area that we want to compound and leverage the law of compounding in, okay? It's education, self-knowledge. If you didn't know, the word education actually comes from the Latin word educo, which means to draw out from within, okay? So it's very interesting, right? And then the last part that I want to share with you guys is how to leverage the law of compounding is in terms of building pipeline. As sales reps, especially when it comes to B2B sales, when we start a new role, what are we doing in the beginning? We're building pipeline. We're making prospecting calls. We're generating opportunities, right? And I've noticed that, and I've been in this situation before too, is when I've seen gotten a certain amount of quote unquote success, or brought in a certain number of deals. Do you keep your foot on the gas, or do you take your foot off the gas? And it's important here to understand that to really crush it, we should be compounding our prospecting efforts, because when we do that, when we keep our foot on the gas, so to speak, even when we're winning, when we're bringing in deals, and we still apply that hunger and keep our foot on the gas, then we're compounding our prospecting activities. And you and I, both of us know that if we do that, our pipeline is going to just keep growing and growing and growing. And ideally it'll get, and if you keep doing that, it'll get to a point where, ideally it'll get to a point where you'll be so abundant with deals that, it just makes everything smoother. It makes everything easier, because you have so many deals, and you feel an abundance with deals. And, so you're not worried about a single deal here falling through the cracks or whatnot, or something happening, because you've got so many deals you're working with. That's really, really powerful. So hopefully you guys got something out of this video. There are 3 ways that as salespeople, we can leverage the law of compounding in our favor, which is investing our income and our earnings from commissions wisely into investments that will compound over time, having a daily habit of learning and feeding our mind that will also compound over time and level our skill set up and our mindset up, and 3, which is compounding prospecting activities. So we grow this massive pipeline where we're just overflowing with deals, and we're consistently bringing in deals. All right. So hope you guys got value in this video, and chat with you guys soon.